Abstract reasoning, dead. You, alive, if you watch this video. As many of you would be aware, abstract reasoning this year is getting taken out of the UCAT, but you might be wondering why, and you might also be wondering, what am I going to do about it? How am I still going to get a good score? What even is a good score anymore? Keep watching, I will tell you. But who am I to tell you what to do? Let me explain. My name is Wijdan. I graduated high school in 2021, and that's when I sat the UCAT in grade 12. I got a 97th percentile score, which back then was a 3,150. But I also got a 99.75 ATAR, which, along with a presumably good interview, got me into the University of Queensland's provisional entry for the Doctor of Med, which I'm assuming lots of you are aiming for med or dent in a similar situation. So where am I now? I just graduated a Bachelor of Biomedical Science, and I'm starting med school in just 3 weeks. I've also been tutoring this whole time, academically and for UCAT, so I know exactly what's going on and how horrible grade 12 still is, so you can trust me. But back to the point, what is UCAT and what is going on with it now? So UCAT stands for University Clinical Aptitude Test, which basically means it's like a little test that they do to see if you're smart enough to get into med or dent. A lot of the top universities use it, but not all of them. Just remember, your ATAR is always more important than your UCAT because every university will consider ATAR, only some of them consider UCAT. Still, UCAT is important if you want to get into one of the top programs, so let's keep talking. This big test used to be 2 hours long with 5 mini subtests, but now they've taken one of them out. But what were the 5 subtests before? Number 1, verbal reasoning, which was basically like reading NAPLAN but for big kids. They give you a passage that's a couple of paragraphs long and then you have to answer 4 or 5 questions about it. And basically, if you're good at reading quickly, you'll be good at VR. Number 2 is decision making, which was basically like a logical reasoning skills test where they give you a set of information and you have to use some deductive thinking skills to figure out the rest of the information or the missing piece of the puzzle. Uses the same parts of your brain that would work out a riddle or solve a puzzle. Number 3 was quantitative reasoning, which is basically maths. Literally just maths, you just have to do it super fast. Number 4, the important one for today's topic, is abstract reasoning, which was kind of like an IQ test where you get a bunch of abstract looking shapes and lines and colors and you have to figure out what's the next pattern in the set. But that one, gone. The last subtest, number 5, was situational judgment, which didn't count for your actual score, but universities would use it to judge your character or separate you from other people who got the same actual score as you. It was basically a test about ethical reasoning. You're given a scenario with several factors at play and you have to decide what is the best response for you in that situation based on an ethical code of conduct. But as of this year, abstract reasoning, that 4th subtest, is getting totally removed. But why? And what are we supposed to do about it? Here's everything you need to know. So let's start with why. With many students across the country reporting abstract reasoning as their best subtest, we have to wonder why it deserves such a tragic end. The answer is pretty simple. It's too easy and too irrelevant. The official UCAT website says that AR has high coachability and performance has increased over the last 10 years. What that translates to in real people talk is if you practice for enough hours, you will just get good at it. Ask any of my top scoring med student friends and they'll all tell you the same thing. Abstract reasoning was my worst subtest. I was in like the 20th percentile, but I did hours and hours and hours of practice, months and months and months of practice, and then it was my best scoring one in the real thing. I'm a literal example of that. When I started studying for UCAT, I was in the 20th, maybe even like 19th percentile for abstract reasoning. I was horrible at it. And so I sat down and I did my little practice for months, every day, on the train, on the bus, at school, during my chemistry classes. Don't do that. But I got really good at it and then it ended up being my best scoring one in the real test. So this clearly demonstrates that with all the use of major training platforms and hours of cold hard study, anybody can top AR. So if it was the easiest subtest, why did they get rid of it? Well, what's also surprising is that many of the naturally gifted, smartest students and top scorers in the UCAT always seem to lack the natural talent in abstract reasoning as they seem to have in other subtests. But why would this be the case? This time my answer isn't so official, but most past students agree that the answer is in the name. It's called abstract reasoning because it's way too abstract. Verbal reasoning relies simply on your speed reading skills and your reading comprehension, something that if you're a high-achieving, gifted student, you've probably been training since day one when you first picked up a book. Decision making is based on doing things like puzzles or Rubik's Cubes or other things that gifted nerd children usually do. And while quantitative reasoning is just maths, like, if you've been studying hard at school for the last 7 years, practicing your maths every day, you're obviously going to be good at QR. But abstract reasoning is something that you have to practice for. The abstract shapes and lines don't make any sense and they don't relate to literally anything else. Some might argue that pattern recognition is important for doctors and medical professionals because they need to be able to identify the symptoms and link it to a disease. But that still relies on you having knowledge of what those symptoms are, what the diseases are, the same kind of stuff that you would be getting from having really good reading comprehension skills where you can read a textbook and memorize all the diseases. Understanding shapes and lines doesn't make you a better doctor, and it doesn't make you a smarter student, which is why at the end of the day, they decided to get rid of it. I mean, why waste time training for shapes and colors when you could be improving skills like quick maths that can help you quickly calculate dosage for patients? So this begs the question, what's even left of UCAT? Well, we've still got the 3 cognitive subtests: verbal reasoning, decision making, and quantitative reasoning. And we've also still got situational judgment, even though it doesn't count for your actual score. Speaking of scores, it's now out of 2,700, which will be the maximum possible score for you to achieve. If you want to know how universities consider situational judgment, sign up for our free workshops in the link below. Anyway, here's a summary. We've got questions, the amount of time you have for each subtest, and the score. Note that scoring has stayed exactly the same, except it's now out of a total of 2,700 because one of the subtests has been removed. Otherwise, surprisingly, the UCAT is still almost 2 hours long because they've adjusted the questions and the subtest time a little bit to make it still the same length. So this brings us to the really big question. What is a good score? What do I need to get in? Given that the percentile cutoff for non-rural interviews stays around 93rd percentile, we can expect this to remain roughly the same. But it's difficult to say what numerical score will correspond to that percentile. As I was saying before, abstract reasoning is generally regarded as the easiest subtest, which means that it'll be a lot harder for people to score anywhere near 2,700. In 2024, the top 10% of students got these scores in the remaining 3 cognitive subtests, which adds up to this. This means that considering the extra practice time students will have because they don't have to worry about AR anymore, it is likely that the top students, namely the top 10%, will be scoring around 2,400 to 2,450. Note that this is just a prediction. At the end of the day, we'll have to find out in October just like everyone else. But if you're ready to ace the new UCAT, guess what? Our first 2 workshops are going to be absolutely free, so sign up in the link below. At Dr. Tutor, we're one of the first companies to completely adapt our ultimate UCAT masterclass to the new UCAT format. This means that you get the most up-to-date strategies and resources, everything you need to ace the new test structure. Here's what sets us apart. Number 1, expert instructors. You'll learn from some of the top medical students who dominated the UCAT, all scoring in the top 5% over the last few years. We also have a comprehensive and unique curriculum with skills that are tailored by students who have had the same experiences that you have. Our lessons are in-depth and filled with practice questions so that you can master all of the essential skills and more. And finally, our classes feature adaptive learning, where we identify your weaknesses and provide tailored feedback to maximize your opportunities for improvement. So don't let these UCAT changes derail your med or dent dreams. Enroll in our UCAT masterclass today and get the edge you need to ace the UCAT this year. Don't forget to sign up for our free session linked below. As always, good luck future doctors. We hope to see you in med school soon. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Bye!